Good morning. Today is Monday. It is the second day of Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan, the first day of the month of Cheshvan. We continue the Tanya in chapter 25 of Igeret HaKodesh, the holy letters of the Altera. And this is a letter that we learn, I think it's more than a week. It's divided into small pieces, small parts. As we mentioned the previous days, the Altera here is addressing a question of that people asked about what the Baal Shem Tov said, that Hashem, God, dwells even in a wicked person that tries to disturb you from serving Hashem. And he explained in length that Hashem is everywhere. No matter what, what happens, everything comes from Hashem. Hashem, because being that Hashem creates the world and everything in the world, every single moment, Hashem renews everything in every day, in every moment, the creation, and otherwise it wouldn't exist. That means that even that person who tries to interfere, tries to stop you from doing the right thing, he wouldn't be able to do it unless Hashem gives him gives him life at that moment, gives him the ability to speak, and so on. So that we explained in length, and Altera continued to explain the way Hashem animates and revives this world, and the way Hashem puts himself into the neshama, into the soul, and that the soul of a Jew corresponds to the higher 10 attributes, that there is the intellect, and there is the emotional part of the Jew, and there is also the concept that there is the speech, meaning that in addition to the fact that Hashem animates and revives us and sustains us in general terms, there's also the specifics that we have, everything what we have, the intellect, the emotions, everything is also directly connected with the spiritual intellect and the spiritual emotions. And therefore, also, the speech is also, this is what really is unique about a human being, that he has the ability to speak. And the speech is about communicating. It's about giving to the outside. In addition to the fact that also speech also strengthens and empowers more our own emotions and our own intellect, because when you have an idea and you just think about it, the idea becomes much, much more stronger, and you can understand it much better when you speak out your idea. So in addition to that, said Altera yesterday, in yesterday's portion, that the speech that you speak in this physical world triggers the speech from above. This is why it is important when you daven, or when you say the Shema, when you say Birkat Hamazon, when you say the grace after the meal, it is important to verbalize, not just read it with your eyes, but to verbalize, to say the words of the tefillah, to say the words of the Shema. In addition to we know that when you speak, it says koil me'oirer hakavana, this voice, the sound, it makes you think and understand better. It is also the idea that your speech triggers the speech from above, the speech from Hashem. That when you say the words, you're me'oirer the speech from Hashem, which bidvar Hashem shamayim nasu, the speech of Hashem brings all the blessings and all of the energy that we have. So this is, we explain the way it happens in the neshama of a Jew. Today the Altera continues that everything what Hashem created he gave to the Kedusha, the holy side, he created in a balanced world that he gave also to the other side, the side which is opposite of Kedusha, The opposite of holiness also receive the similar 10 attributes. So let's look at inside the way the Altera explains this. Vehine, says the Altera, now, ze leumas ze. God created this opposite that. He created holiness, so so to counteract the holiness, he created the evil also. That it should be a free choice, it should be a balanced world. But what is interesting, he calls it says, Yesh asara kisrei de mesa'avuso. There are 10 crowns of impurity. Yesterday we spoke about the 10 attributes in the Kedusha and the holy side. What is it called in the Kedusha? It's called the 10 spheres, the 10 attributes. When it comes to the evil side, he calls it 10 crowns of impurity. Why does he call it by the evil crowns? Crown means like something very high, very holy, above the head, which we explain in Chassidus. The crown represents something very deep. However, when he calls here in this context crowns by the impurity, it is not because of the holiness. On the contrary, there's no in the story of Aliyah Navi. He once walked with Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi wanted to walk with him to see what he's doing. He told him in a condition, you don't ask any questions. He says, fine. So he went and he saw different things that it didn't make sense. And one of the things that didn't make sense, it was in a place where the people so disrespected them, they didn't treat them well. And Eliyahu Hanavi gave them a blessing and said that all of you should become leaders, heads. And at one point, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi couldn't take it anymore, and he asked Eliyahu Hanavi why. Oh, I'm sorry. He gave him a blessing for these people. He gave him a beautiful blessing, and people that treated him well, he gave him something which sounded not good. I'm not going to go to the whole story, but at this point, what Eliyahu Hanavi told him, okay, I'm going to answer you, but you cannot come with me anymore. And he told him what happens when everybody is a head, when everybody is a leader. When everybody is a leader, there is no peace. Everybody wants to do everything for himself, what he wants. Everybody is a leader. So in order to have peace, there will be only, when there is one leader, something that collects them all, that unites everything together, this is peaceful. This is harmony. In Kedusha, in the holy side, there is 10 attributes. But the 10 attributes, they work in harmony with each other. They work together because they're not selfish. It's about one leader, about Hashem. But when it comes to the impure side, there is 10 crowns. Each one is a crown for itself. Yes, they receive the energy from Hashem, but each being that they come from the other side, there is the selfishness. That's all about me. That is why it's called the 10 kisrin de mesavusa, the 10 crowns of the impurity. So let's continue inside. So he says, Yeisha Sara Kisre de Mesavusa, there are 10 crowns of impurity. Umehem nimshachis nafshis umais, and from there the issues the souls of the nations. Gam ken klules me'esed b'chines elu mamish, which are also comprised of the very same 10 levels, whatever there is in the Kedusha, there is in the other side. Now, this, it says, it is very known, Mashekasuv beSefer HaGilgulim, what is written in the book called Sefer HaGilgulim. Gilgulim means the reincarnations. It comes from the Arizal, the book about the reincarnations. And there it says something interesting. Al pasuk asher sholata adam ba'adam lera loy. There is a verse that King Solomon says that asher sholata adam ba'adam, that man rules over man, lera loy, to his detriment, that it's bad for him. What is this talking about? It's talking, there is the Adam. Adam is man. There is the man of Kedusha, man of holiness. There is also the Adam, the man of the Klippa, the man of the impurity. And sometimes there is a situation when the man of the Klippa, the Adam of the impurity, controls and rules over the man of Kedusha. However, it is to its detriment. It is because ultimately the man of Kedusha overpowers and able to take out all of the godly sparks that dwells in the impurity. Example for that would be the story when the Jewish people went to Egypt. So when the Jewish people went to Egypt, the Egyptians controlled and they ruled over the Jewish people. But what was the purpose? Ultimately, the purpose was that the Jewish people should take out everything. It says before they left Egypt, they took out, it says, Vayenatzlu et Mitzrayim, they empty out the land of Egypt. They emptied out the gold, the silver, the jewelry, everything. What was the purpose? The purpose because in every physical object there is a godly sparks and there is a godly intent why this was created. And when the Jewish people take it out and they use it out for Kedusha, they build a temple with this and they use it out for holy purposes, they elevate those sparks. So this is when the Adam ruled over the Adam for its detriment, and yet it was for a good purpose, l'raloi. It was for its detriment, the klippa's detriment, the the detriment of the impurity. And it continues, Altera Peshuta golus hashchina b'seicha klippis. Now this is the mystery of the exile of the Shechina, that Hashem, the divine presence, dwells in the klippis, in the impure things. In order to animate them and to empower them to rule in the present time of exile. However, this temporary dominion of the evil is ultimately to its detriment. And therefore, this is why the nations presently dominate the Jewish people. Why? He says, because the souls of the nations come from the klippos, from the other side. Which the Shechina, Hashem's divine presence, is vested in them in a state of exile. So that vesting of the Shechina empowers them to rule. And the Altera says that this is something that needs explanation. He says, though this needs extensive exposition to understand of how and what, the whole thing of Shechina in the exile. This is now the time to explain this in length. However, nevertheless, this is truly so. But nevertheless, even though it says the klipa, the evil, receive their life and the energy from the kedusha, nevertheless, Eina klipa Israel umais yoinkim umekablem chayus elo me'aore animsheches lem mibchinas achorayim de kedusha. The klipas, the evil, and the nations, they nourish their life force only from a reflection extended to them from the hindermost dimensions of holiness, like from the back. He says, "Keman de shode bosa kasfe." Just like as we explained yesterday, when you want to give something to someone you don't want to really give to, let's say you're forced to give something to someone that you don't want to you give it from the back. You give it from the back. And ve'av gam zois al yedei tzimtzumim u'mesochim rabim v'atzumim. And all of this also is true only through tzimtzumim, through the numerous contraction and screens until this radiation becomes vested in the materiality of this world. And this light, which comes through filtering and all kinds of screening, it gives to the ummahs, to the nation, dispensing the wealth and honor and all physical pleasures unto the nations. So they get a lot of physical pleasures, a lot of physical goods, but it's from such a reduced light that comes from the back of Hashem, so to speak. Masha'en ken Yisrael, unlike Jews, however, the Jewish people, they elicit their sustenance from the supernal continents, the panim. Panim means the inner part, like the face, the innermost part from Hashem. As it says, it is written, Yoer Hashem panav elecha, that Hashem, may God make his countenance shine upon you. And panav again is the face, meaning the pnimius, the innermost part. Kol echad ve'echad lafi sheirish nishmasa yadrum ha'mailes, each according to the source of his soul, up to the most elevated of levels. To use a nice example to understand the difference between what the Goy receives and what the Jew receives, is given an example like a king who has a special feast that he invites only special people. He doesn't invite everybody. And everybody wants to be honored and to come to sit at the table by the king and to enjoy the inner intimate connection with the king and to eat together with the king. Now by the feast, what happens? They give each one, give him a portion of food. And then after the meal is over, what do? There's a lot of food left. So they take all of the food and they throw it in the backyard for the dogs. Now, who receives more food? The ministers, the special people sit by the king, or the dogs outside? The ministers, those who sit by the king, they all receive a very small portion for them. The dogs, they receive all of the leftovers, which is plenty, plenty, plenty. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to have your little portion, or do you prefer to have a lot of food outside in the garbage? That is the difference. If someone is smart, understands that when you can have a lot of physical things, a lot of money, a lot of pleasures, everything, I want to have so much. But if it's not something that comes as a result of the inner connection with the king, it's like food for the dogs. When a Jew receives from Hashem, he receives the innermost connection with Hashem. The innermost connection, the deeper connection that a Yid receives from Hashem. And yes, we need the bracha physical also. But the bracha we need the innermost blessing. So this is the end of today's shir. And tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem, we'll continue to bring us up to the beginning with a question that he asked: how is it that Hashem dwells in the goy that comes to interfere with you, and gives us a better understanding that how this should not stop us, and the contrary should only help us and encourage us in serving Hashem. So thank you for joining. Please share. And once again, We are live every day on Zoom, 9 o'clock. Please join us. All the best. Any questions? You can ask now the question.